Hi, I'd like to talk to you about rhythm and help you to understand kind of what's sort of going on internally in a way when we really plug into our natural sense of rhythm. Because rhythm is a sense, in my view. We have a sense of rhythm. Maybe all living creatures have a sense of rhythm because, in a way, without it, you wouldn't be able to do some of the most basic things. So think about that. Maybe even a worm has a sense of rhythm. Maybe even a bacterium has a sense of rhythm. Do you see what I mean? It's like a basic sense of time happening in iterative cycles. That's kind of what rhythm is. And we sense it. So what do we sense when we sense rhythm? So the first thing that we sense is this sort of idea of a beat. So what's a beat? Well, a beat is an event. It's got duration. We think in terms of sort of time packets or durations. Now, these durations don't have to be perfectly metrically worked out when we're playing. In fact, it's better if they're not. If you quantize everything perfectly, it sounds a bit lifeless, to say the least. We don't want to sound like computers. In fact, it doesn't sound rhythmic if it's too perfect. So it's not about a specific length of time, but it's a length of time. We sort of feel this arc of time. And this packet of time that we call a beat has two parts to it. It has the initial transient or impact, the moment at the beginning that sets sound in motion. Even if there's no sound, we still have to have this feeling of there being a initial spark to start that period of time that we call a beat, this packet of time that is a beat. So this is a kind of masculine part of rhythm. It's an impact. If I clap, you really hear that part of the beat. If I play a note, however, if I sing a note, ba, you can tell there's another part to what a beat is, which is the feminine part, the flow. And in my experience as a teacher, I talk about flow a bit obsessively because it's so important. This more feminine part of rhythm, this part that kind of glues the structure of the groove together. Without this feminine part, there's nothing. Now, I have a tendency to sort of do little research projects in my own head. So I haven't really done any research, it's just in my own head. But I imagine if I were to ask people in the street, what's rhythm, and interview people, if I could be bothered to be a social scientist and do this work, and I was to do it, I think I'd probably find I get a fairly even distribution of two responses. You get people that favour the masculine response, and they say, "Oh, it's like keeping time with a strong beat that's like They'd think that's what rhythm is. Or they might say rhythm is all about flow and feeling it in your body and movement, and that's more like the feminine. But it's actually only really effective. Rhythm only really works when a beat has both parts, the initial spark and the flow. And what's really interesting, I think, is that the flow, this feminine part, this part that kind of ripples through the groove or flows through the groove, that's the primary part of rhythm. It needs to be there first. Now, that's so true. If I want to clap a nice, strong impact and get that initial masculine spark of sound to get the beat going, if I want to do that, I have to actually move and flow and then clap. So there's always a feeling of like, and clap. So there is actually this flowing energy before the beat as well as afterwards. And ba. And this is kind of what makes the beats, the sort of the impact bit quite interesting. It's almost like a little mirror that sort of is like a point of synergy. Everything that's come before, everything that comes afterwards. And this is the birth of groove. This is kind of what groove is, isn't it? Groove is where things have a kind of symmetry. So I've talked about this in a previous video, what groove really is. Groove is not just keeping time, and a lot of people feel a groove in a very natural way. You just feel it in your body, and that's good. You should feel it in a natural way and feel it in your body. But we can actually think of the structure, and the structure of groove is that you get one beat and it's then answered by or followed by another to sort of complete as almost like a pendulum swinging back. So it's like da da, and that then produces a unit which has another part, da da dee da that answers it in balance. And the beats build in this way in either twos or threes. So this essential quality of a beat having structure, so having points of division, these masculine points of division, that what we might call the beat, and then this flow that runs between them. And this is so important. And if you want to produce music which has a rhythmic feel to it, that has a rhythmic quality, as I say, you don't want to play just with structure. You certainly don't want to play like a metronome. You want there to be a little bit of bend. That flow has got this kind of wavy, bendy sort of quality. So if I'm playing like a simple rhythm, something like this. So it's a very typical 6-time da 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 dee da da. But you could feel there's this feeling of groove, feeling of story kind of unfolded. And that comes through things not just being metronomic. Now, if I try and play it metronomically and very perfectly, it's quite hard for me anyway, because I'm so used to playing in a more flowing way. I'm having to really sort of concentrate to do it, but it doesn't feel very nice. It doesn't feel very nice in the body. I can feel tension in my arms and my fingers. Whereas when we get this flow, it feels a lot better. And I'm betting it doesn't sound very nice either. You know, when I'm sure you'll agree, it sounds sort of stiff and held and awkward. So this flow that I go on about so much as a teacher is massively important, and we actually feel it. So we feel it in the body. This is the point. So to encourage this feeling of flow, it's good to move the body and feel the movement. So as I play a rhythm like that, I might sway a little bit. So that movement, that kind of rocking movement helps that rhythm. Even a rhythm that's very sort of spiky. You don't want it to be metronomic, or it'll just won't have that kind of jaunty quality. So if you want rhythm to have this feeling of grooviness, of rhythmic, catchy, I don't know what the right words are, but it just feels rhythmic, then you got to feel the flow. Even if it's something that is, as I say, really sort of like obviously rhythmic and spiky, you still want it to have flow. Otherwise, it just sounds wooden. And we don't want that, do we? We don't want it to sound wooden. That's kind of the opposite of very rhythmic. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because people, you know, when I'm talking about rhythm to students, it's interesting how many people sort of feel that rhythmic playing is just playing that's very in time, whatever that really means. I suppose it means metronomic, which I'm saying is undesirable. So rhythm is a structure. You've got this structure of the groove that you kind of know. And that awareness of that structure is vital. That's what produces the groove and produces the storytelling, makes it sort of have these sections that cadence and, you know, have this poetic groovy quality. But this feeling of flow, this feeling of like, almost like being carried, you know, like being carried along a stream, this wave, this sense of this ripple or wave. This is very, very important. And it's kind of elastic. You can be very elastic. I'm going to take that first rhythm, that's 6, and it'll sound more classical in a way, because classical music, especially romantic classical music, uses rubato. And that's what this is. I'm going to really stretch it. Have a listen. So you feel that kind of stretchy, feeling elastic quality. So you need some of that even in the jauntiest sort of rhythm. You need some. If I'm playing some Mozart, which we often think of as very strict, it just sounds awkward and wooden if I go. It's actually, I find it difficult. Trying to make it vary in time is quite hard. If I go da 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 diddle little 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 diddle little, do you feel that flow? That way the notes are not all equal. Now, it's important to say that it's not done in a way that's just like haphazard. It's not an error. I'm feeling it within the structure. Diddle little, 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 diddle little. So it has that poetry feeling, that groove feeling. So all the flexibility is happening in a way that's still quite ordered. It still has this masculine aspect of there being a beat that happens at a very specific point, and then it's organized into a structure. But there is also this feeling of flow and elasticity and stretch. And without that, the storytelling, the musicality doesn't really happen. And as I say, it feels good in the body. Now, finding it's a bit like hitting the dance floor with the lights on and everyone's watching you and no one else is dancing. It can be a bit scary. We can be a bit self-conscious to feel the rhythm, especially this feminine part, this flowing part, to feel it in our bodies and in our souls. So we have to let go, we have to be brave and allow that wave to flow through us when we play or sing music. So that's what the essential sort of basis of rhythm is. It's a beat that flows.